Hey guys, this is Kieran from Eccentric Physio. Today we're going to look at generally what a deadlift technique looks like. We're not too worried about super specifics today, just getting it to look and feel like something you're going to get more comfortable with. Very useful for starting to build some mid-range endurance and strength through your spinal muscles and starting to coordinate that with hip hinging and knee flexion and all the other things that happen in your lower limb. So if picking something up and down off the ground feels like it's a big challenge for you, this might be something that you find interesting and useful. So with deadlifts, there's a variety of techniques involved here. You could be going for wide stances, narrow stances, and you kind of entering and exiting the realm of like generalism of like I just need to pick up that shoe off the ground and maybe something over there, to more performance orientated like powerlifting. So we're kind of looking more towards the general end today. You might watch this and feel like there's a lot of critique that could be made about this particular deadlift technique or some of the things I talk about, and that's fine. It's probably totally relevant. I'm welcome to any feedback as well. We're just looking at generally getting someone back into being able to pick something up off the ground with confidence after any sort of injury. I mean, we've got a lot of body parts involved in this movement, so it's applicable for many things. To start with though, you could have a kettlebell, and I like the kettlebell as an option to start with instead of like a traditional one with a barbell, just for the grip aspect, and also it's potentially a little less technical and just allows a little more room for error, and I think that gives a slightly better learning environment for the novice or for someone just getting back into loading their posterior chain. So some rules of thumb to play with would be that from the sides, it should look like you've surrounded the weight. And the reason we do that is to just bring the weight close to our center of mass. And it just means that it's going to be a little easier to control, and we can be a little more focused on trying to focus on, say, the technique aspects instead of trying to figure out how am I going to even control this weight that's really far away from me. So first order would be that you come over and you surround that weight. Next step is I just want you to get down and try and touch the weight. So I go down and I try and touch, and I come back up. From the front, it might look something like this. I go down and I touch. Now, if it's something light, you can probably multitask. You can probably be thinking about other things. And light's relative. So for someone, 100 kilos might be light. For someone else, 2 kilos might be light. Whatever's light for you. Light being that your attention can be elsewhere and you're not too worried about the weight. So for me, this is relatively light. And it means that I can talk to you and discuss these things. So when you're coming down, we talk a lot about neutral spine, but the reality is when you get into deadlifts or start to get into fatigue during these movements, you're going to see some flexion. And that's not a bad thing. It's just more about, are you prepared for that flexion? Have you been there before? Have you built tolerance? And so if you're just entering back into some movements, your tolerance level will be lower. You have a smaller battery for the movement you're trying to do. So be wary of that. You might feel some sensations in through here. If it's not painful, it might just be a fatiguing thing that's going on, like, hey, my back muscles are getting tired. Or maybe you've had an ankle sprain and you're feeling that your ankle feels stiff. Maybe you've had a hip injury or a shoulder injury and you're just feeling that those are the parts of your body that start to fatigue first. That's okay. That's why we're doing this. You just stop when you hit that fatigue point before the technique or your task, the form of it, fails and breaks down. That's when you start to see other compensations coming in. So we're going down. Nice to have a mirror so you can see what's going on. So I'm looking over here and I'm just looking at my back, and can I just keep it in the shape that I started with? And I can. If I started a little bit flexed like this, that's fine. It's actually a more advantageous position for a lot of the thoracic spinal erectors anyway. So as long as I keep that on the way down, that's okay, especially on the way up too. So just that whole movement. So we're looking, basically, we review, so surround the weight, coming down and picking up, all right? Now we could make this load a little more asymmetrical, so I could grab it with one hand. I could grab it in the middle here, and that weight's trying to drag me and twist me, and I have to resist that weight. I could also have it on the side here and do what we call a suitcase deadlift. So that weight's now dragging me this way, and I have to try and hold myself steady as I come up and down. You can see I'm having to think a little bit more about it. There's not necessarily a wrong or perfect way when we're at this stage. You're just trying to get used to tissue loading, and the variety is probably a better option for you. So I'd run through a sequence where maybe you're doing a two-handed version. You're doing some one-handed stuff. Maybe you're picking up and you're putting back down on the other side. Just roughly, can you get down, can you pick it up until you feel like you fatigue, okay? More advanced stuff requires a lot more time, a lot more experience. I mean, like any skill, expect a few years to really feel competent at something. So you're not gonna get this overnight, but it's something that is useful. It's something you're gonna do every day. So if you've had a back injury in particular, it's really good to start exposing yourself to these things because it's a range and a movement that you require during the day. So start slowly, start light for you, and work your way up just into fatigue, pull back, have a rest, go again a few times a week, and you'll start to be able to slowly increase the weight in a nice, safe, and predictable way. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.